everyone, welcome to Art Club. So, recently we were looking at the idea that on Halloween night, the fairies go parading across the land from their summer homes into their winter homes where they stay for the winter. And we looked at the different kinds of fairies, like the Tuatha Dé Danann being the original fairies 4,000 years ago who arrived on a dark cloud, and all the way to kind of more like animal fairies where they're half person, half animal, and maybe fully able to transform into an animal. And we also looked at tiny fairies as well, smaller versions that are, some people say they're little and some people say they have wings. And we looked at a couple of different types. So continuing on with that kind of idea, I thought we'd look at something to do with the fairies again. So let me just share the screen here. Recently, I was at St. Bridget's Well in County Clare, and I noticed something at a couple of these sites where there's wells and things like that, that often people leave trinkets and tokens and things like that. And you can see here that there's a lot of stuff left. And it's a little bit like areas that sometimes are together where you see a well with a saint's name, but also you might see a fairy tree or something that looks a bit more like from a different kind of way of thinking. And it's an interesting tradition, and it goes way, 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 way back in time. St. Bridget's Well was a site well before it was called St. Bridget's Well, because as it turns out, here she is in her kind of house outside the well. And you can see she looks very typical of the kind of Christian saints statues that you see. And here on the left, you can see another version of her, which is much older and actually comes from France, because Saint Bridget is actually kind of part of a tradition of an older story. So when the Tuatha Dé Danann arrived 4,000 years ago, this may well have been the Celts arriving in Ireland, and they arrived with new technology and new ships and all the types of things you hadn't seen before. So they got kind of mixed up with mythology and kind of magical ideas. And when they arrived, apparently there was a lady with them called Breed. Well, the Irish people called her Breed, but she was Bridget, or there's a couple of different names along those lines for her. And so as they were the original fairies, in fact, she was one of the original fairies, and a very important one. She was known as being a sort of triple goddess, and she was responsible for things like warfare, but then poetry, and just a huge wealth of things were associated with her. So she's a really powerful and popular figure. And when the Christianization of Ireland began, because she was such a popular figure, the people who came to kind of change Ireland to Christian decided to kind of take the idea of her and bring it in to the religion, so that people could kind of continue to have her, and it might help people bring them along into this new way of thinking. So she became Saint Bridget. And now in the 5th century, there was apparently a lady called something like Bridget who did exist and started a monastery. And so you have this kind of almost a triple in this story now. She's almost a triple person still. You have the original Celtic and fairy Breed, then you have the Christian one, which is kind of like another story. But then you also have this real lady who did exist and created this monastery. So she's kind of taken up a few different personalities and a few different people into her name and into her what the meaning of her name and things that we kind of understand her to represent. So I was super interested in this, and the idea that all these kind of, like the fact that this statue is even from France and things like that, that really these things are really global, these traditions and these figures, that they've traveled all over the world and chopped and changed and become different names sometimes, or their story changes, but these are really ancient human stories. And they say a lot about what kind of stories we're interested in and what kind of figures we're interested in. And she's a really interesting character, and I think she's a really fantastic one, and it makes sense why she has survived in all her different forms. But yes, when I was at the well and I saw her in her little house here, it was kind of making me think of a lot of the time you see those roadside shrines and things, and often they're kind of in these little houses. And there's actually a tradition of this kind of in a lot of different countries. So creating kind of, I suppose you could call them spirit houses or shrines. So this one here on the left is from Mexico. And in the middle here is from India with the god Ram there in the background. And this one is from Italy, a street in Italy. So you can see there's a mixture. Sometimes they might just be publicly in a street. Sometimes they're more for in your home where you can create a space, and whatever sort of spiritual belief you have, it can be your place to go and have time to think or ask questions or pray or whatever it is that people like to do. And these ones I think are lovely because you can see the kind of common aesthetic between them. So you can see things like, have a look, there's flowers in each of them. There's kind of offerings. Sometimes people put things down on these little shelves here. You have got candles and kind of gems and jewels and glitter, and the fact that they all have that house shape, that sort of protected space. It's really a lovely thing. And so let's look at some more. Here's some more. So again, India, and I don't know where these two are from, but again, similar ideas here, leaving charms. I think that might be Mexico. They have a tradition of charms, of little metal charms. That could be Mexico. And this one is really interesting, isn't it? All these kind of wooden beads and all these, what you could call trinkets almost. And then here we go, another one. So this is Poland, here is Thailand, and this is Greece. And again, you can see the similarities. These are all out in public spaces. Again, house shapes, and they leave offerings. You can see flowers on each one or around each one, which is interesting. We had looked in other art clubs, so some of you might remember, at the idea of the spirit houses that exist in Thailand and in Asia, and the fact that often they're associated with like tree gods and things like that. So there's a really, you can see them quite a lot when you're if you're over there, if you have the chance to be over there. And here's another version here. This is from Jerusalem. There's two here. And rather than having sort of a personified picture in there, they're for housing the Torah. So a really sacred scripture. So again, a kind of spiritual little sacred little space in a little house shape. And then this is kind of a different one. This is from Peru. It's not so much necessarily a sacred space, but it's a storytelling space. And they in folk art create these little box houses like that, full of characters and objects and things. And when we did this in the class, actually one of the people of the class, Jo, she actually had one in her house, so she was able to bring it out and show it to us. So they're a really common item that apparently you can find over there. So that's pretty much what we're thinking about today. The idea of creating these kind of places, these kind of little sacred spaces where you might leave things and go there, or leave notes, or make them as a way to kind of communicate with some spiritual part of yourself. And what we've been thinking about obviously is the fairies, and as the Halloween is coming up, the idea was that we would make something like this, that we could kind of take advantage of the fact that fairies are very active on Halloween night, and create a sort of a fairy house, or a fairy spirit house or something like that, to leave things for them in. So I'll show you some examples here. Just get this out of the way. So here they are. So you can see they're just little simple 3D structures we're going to make. You can add a picture or maybe a note or a message. There's a little parcel of some bits and pieces, some things I've collected, some seeds, gems, flowers. You might like to leave different things there. And then some bunting, some tiny bunting. So we'll make that too. So it is time to open the art pack. So open the art pack, have a look at what's inside, and then I'm going to show how we make the piece, and then you guys can work away on your own very own fairy houses. Yeah, great. So in your art pack, you are going to have a couple of paper templates, and there's 3. The reason I've actually put in a few is because when I was making these, I made like loads of them, and it took me ages to get the template right and everything, and just kind of figure it out. And I really enjoy doing things, and as you can see even from the wall, there's, even when I figured it out, I made loads. It's nice to do things a few times, just to kind of get to know the process. And if you're super quick, then it gives you kind of more to work with. And also you could always give them as a present or something like that if you like. And in the class, some people did things like they made triptychs. They had 3 houses, and it kind of was part of a story or an idea, or they put one house facing one way and one the other, and they kind of back them onto each other. Little kind of interesting ideas came out of it. So you will also have a bag in there which has got some gems in it that get you started on the decorating, a piece of card which is for writing a letter or a picture for your house, and some embroidery thread. And for the time being, the bag and that we can put to the side, and we're going to make the bunting out of that, but we'll do that at the end. So I'll just show you quickly how you kind of put the house together. I'll show you how you put the bunting together, and then it'll be up to you to go ahead and kind of work away on it. Okay, so what you're going to concentrate on for your template are the red lines. So where you see red lines, you're going to cut, and where you see pencil line, you're just going to leave it alone for now. So red lines you're cutting, and the first thing you'll do is just cut out the shape. So you have a shape like this. And then take a look and see where do you see the red lines, just along here, here, there's one here, here, and here. So just trim them, cut there. So once you have those done, you are going to turn over your house, and you're just going to fold back like that, and you'll see that what you're doing is you're folding on the pencil lines now. And if you want to be really particular about it, you could get a ruler and put it down to get it really straight, but I'm just going to go like that, and then fold back every piece. So you'll end up with a shape like that, which is starting to come together. And when you press it together, you'll see that there are tabs. So there's a tab there, one on the roof. And all you need to do is do the folds there too. So do a fold there, there. The roof, what you can do is just give it a squeeze and see what way will it fit best. So a little bit more fiddly than the other ones. There we go, something like that. Give that a squeeze, a pinch. And now you can see that when you hold it like that, you've got your house. So you're just going to put a little bit of tape on here, or else a little bit of glue. And if you put a glue, just put a little bit of glue in, and then just hold each one till it's dry. And you'll end up with a house. So that's the basic structure. So if you want, you could pause the video and get that done first, and just make sure you're happy with that. And then we'll look at doing the bunting. So the bunting is lovely and easy too, using this bag because it already has a fold and it's double-sided. All we need to do is cut triangles, or any shape in fact. During the class, somebody had a really good idea and they cut fish shapes out of it. Someone else did kind of semicircles. So they don't have to be triangular bunting, they could be any shape. And as long as you're cutting that fold at the side of the bag, you'll end up with a shape that is folded over like that. So then you can see that you have your string, and you just need to place the shapes on like that, whatever way you like, and you can put a bit of glue there and stick that down. Of course, you don't have to use the bag. If you wanted to, you could just use paper, and all you need to do there is fold the sheet in half, so you have that fold, and then cut the shapes and whatever they may be, and yeah, make your bunting, and then you can attach that on anywhere you like. So that's pretty much the long and short of it. So that's the one I made on the art club there on Tuesday, and even though I've made probably 6 of these, I love doing them, and I'm probably going to make some more. So I hope you enjoy making them as much as I did, and I know the class did there on Tuesday night. And do let me know how you get on. Take photos if you want and send them on. It's always great to see what people are working on. And see you next week. Okay. Bye.